All right, artists. So today we are now starting our big macrame project where you're going to be using multiple strings and we're going to be using some kind of a item. If you really want to make this very functional, meaning you can actually use it, you're going to want something that can work like a container. So something like a cup, a bowl. Plates might get a little bit tricky, but you definitely want to use something, number one, that can hold things, but that is also not going to break very easily. So I'd recommend like a plastic cup of any kind. If you have like plastic or paper bowls, something that if you dropped it, it's not going to shatter. So if you need to talk to mom and dad about it, again, paper products can work fine, but I'd recommend something that is a little bit sturdy and can hold things, but that if it falls out of your hand, it's not going to crack. The idea is generally we are going to be using our yarn to create almost like a netting to hold our container. So it's going to be not finished, but it's going to be kind of similar to this, where you're going to have the macrame holding up your item. So this is not finished yet. You'll see it when that's finished once we get to the end of it. But this is going to be the general idea that you're going to be able to hold something in your macrame. You're going to want to start this off with about, I'm going to recommend at least 8 different strings. And that does seem like a lot. And you are going to want to make them kind of long. So I would say, just so that you make sure you have plenty for this, it should try to be about as long as your arms if you stretch your arms out. Almost. Mine's a little on the shorter side, but I think it'll still work. And you're going to start off with doing the knot to tie all of them together. So remember, that's where you make a loop and tuck all the ends through the loop, pull it to make a knot. So you have a nice knot in the end. And we're going to actually start this just on a table. Tape it down, tape the knot down. Bam. And I'm going to separate these strings out into pairs. So I'm going to pair 2 colors together and put them to one side, and I'm going to pair 2 colors together. They're going to go over there, and pair these together. They can hang out up here for now. So I've got 8 strings into pairs, so I've got 4 different groups. Now you'll want to start this off, since we've only got 2 strings starting it, we're going to start this off by doing a clove hitch. So that was the one, if you remember, where you have 1 string loose and the other one. You can tape it down if you like. You may want to try and do it without taping it down, which I'll show you the best way to do that as well. See if we can tilt that just a little. Perfect. So you take your loose one, and you can kind of bunch it up a little bit. Just be careful not to get it too tangled. Over, under, and through. And when you go to pull it through, make sure that you're holding on to your string that you would normally tape down. Keep a nice hold on it while you tighten the other side. Don't just leave it loose, and don't try to pull both of them together. Just hold that one firm and tug the other one over. And you're going to start by doing a couple of these. Now, what you want to have is that you have each string is going to be not quite as wide as what you're making. So my cup has a pretty narrow top. So I'm not going to go too far with this. I've done 3. I think I'm going to just do 4 and then 5. So for a cup, you won't need to do too many. If you've got something bigger, like my plastic bowl I had, you'll make those a little bigger. I'll switch to my other color. And we'll do this again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Gotcha. And the last one for 5. So what you really want to have happen is you want the length of your clove hitch to be about half of what the distance is from the middle of your cup to the edge. So you can figure that out by putting your cup on top of it. If you have a see-through cup, this kind of works nice for me. I can see that my string is a little bit on the long side. I'm just going to snug that up a little bit, push that towards the top. So you can see that the knot ends before it gets to the edge of the cup. You don't want it to go past the edge. You want it to be just to the inside of that edge. And you're going to go around and you're going to do this on all 4 of your strings, or all 4 of your sections. So this section's done. I would scoot that. I would take my new section. I would start working on that. And then I would work on the next one, and I would work on the next one. So, magic of TV. Let me get that out of the way. I'll be continuing this one too, though. You know I like to make more than one example. Here is one that is ready for the next step. So what happened with this one? Get that out of the way. There you go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What I did was once I finished with each of my sections, I took those different pairs and laid them out on top of my bowl. And then I put a little piece of tape just enough to cover the knots that are underneath. So you can just barely see there. There was the clove hitch with the white and the yellow. I got almost toward the edge, and now I'm taping them down. So I taped down all of my strings, so the knot's just kind of hanging out in the middle of this. Okay. Thank you, string. So if you haven't gotten this far and you want to pause so you can finish up this step, please do so. But if you are ready to continue, here's what you're going to do next. You're going to take a string from one group. So I'm going to take my black. I'm going to take a string from the other group. So I'm going to take my blue. And I'm going to bring these toward the center. I'm going to start with my blue. And I'm going to just do, like usual, clove hitch. Go over the black, underneath, oops, through the loop. And I'm going to pull it up so that their knot is kind of in the middle. The first knot's going to be a little slippery. If you pull too hard, it's going to end up going all the way over. So you want to try and keep it, pull it up right till it's in between the two. When you do the second knot, over, under, through, and pull that one up, now the knot's going to actually hold in place better. That little snug, and then I'm going to keep going. So then with this new group, I'm taking this until it's just about till the edge. We'll go pretty much to the edge of our group. And I'll switch colors partway through. And you want to do some switching colors, otherwise, like I said before, you're going to have some of your yarn is going to start getting shorter than others. So by switching colors often, it will help to keep your yarn all the same length. That's pretty good for the blue. Careful, because that was trying to pull through the tape. Let's switch to the black. And we'll keep going. You may need to put something to hold your bowl in place. You can see mine is kind of slipping around a little bit. So if you have to tape it down like you would your string normally, you may need to, or put something heavy on top of it just to keep it still. So that will continue all the way to the edge of the bowl. Do another one just to make sure they're about the same length. And there. It's very important that you have your string meeting before it gets to the edge of your bowl, or your cup, or your plate, or whichever you're using. Because that little connection is going to help hold everything together. So now once that section's finished, I'm going to turn it around. I'm going to take two new colors, a new pair, and I'm going to bring those two together, and I'm going to start working with these two. Over, under, through. Get those to meet in the middle. Over, under, through. Snug that up. So this is going to continue all the way around the edge. I'm probably going to keep going and do it on video and speed it up so you can just kind of see the whole thing in action. And then once I finish that part, we will pause again, take a moment, and work on the next part of this. And I will work on doing one on the cup as well so that you can see what it'll look like on both of them. So watch the fast forward or pause it to work on it and watch it afterwards, but I'll see you in just a moment. Right, so finished doing my linking of the new groups together on the bottom of my cup and on the bottom of my bowl. And you probably noticed, just by watching, that there's a lot of yarn and it may get in the way a little bit. So the best thing to do is try to just keep everything as organized as possible. Every now and then, make sure that your yarn is not getting tangled in any way. You may even want to just wrap it around your hand a few times to make a nice little loop. And that can kind of help you to keep things from getting too out of control. But just be prepared that there's going to be a lot of yarn that you're dealing with. And you can try and keep it as neat as you can to avoid tangles. So now the next step of this, now that we've got the bottom, and I would recommend leaving the tape just as it is, just so that nothing moves on you. The next step is to start moving along the sides of whatever your container is, whether it is a cup or a bowl. If it is a plate, you're pretty much going to keep doing this method all the way into the edge of the plate. So you're going to continue to do a couple, trade them off, and go back and forth between them. What can be fun is you can do a little bit of trading off. So I could have, at this point, I could bring my red and my orange back together, and you can see that they would mirror each other, or I could start making changes and switch them in opposite directions. And I could bring together a whole new pairing. So it's kind of up to you. You get to start being a little bit creative with the colors. My recommendation, again, is going to be that you're going to continue kind of doing the clove hitch along the sides. And you're going to continue to switch back and forth. You don't need to do quite as short of one. You could do one about halfway down for either of them. So you could go about halfway down your cup, just doing a pair together, maybe just switching off those colors, and then trade into a new group to finish up the rest of the side. So, and unless you really enjoy going back and forth, which I kind of do. So I'll probably do it both ways. I'll probably just do a little bit longer on the bowl and then switch colors and have them trade out once. And on this one, I'll probably switch sides a couple of times. So you're going to kind of see both as I'm going through this. And you're going to continue to do that all the way until you get either to the edge of your bowl, the edge of your plate, or the edge of your cup. Then we're going to start bringing it together so that you can actually use it as a hanging device. So we're going to speed it up again. You're going to see me going through the whole thing again until we get up to the edges, and then we'll just keep going from there. right, so now that we've gotten our macrame up to the sides of our various pieces, now is the time where we're going to start to put them together in the hanging piece. And you probably noticed that as I went through this, I started taping things down because I noticed that as I was working on it, when I tried to pull them tight, it would cause the pieces to slide over. So by taping them down, that kept them from going back and forth and kind of maintained this like netting around it. So probably a good tip is to tape it down as you go. Now we've been largely doing clove hitch this whole time because there's only 2 strings and each of those clove hitch only needs 2. But now that we're getting into the rest of this, as we create this to be something that we can hang, we can now start gathering these together in different ways. So we could go back to doing 2 and continue to do just the regular clove hitch, or you can start to pair these up differently. You could bring 4 of them together at this point and do one of the other kinds of knots. You could do the zipper with this, with 2 in the middle and 2 different colors going back and forth, or you could do one of the square knots. So you are going to need to choose one other knot that you are going to use for the next part of this, and you'll pick 2 together, and you put the other 2 together, and do them about the same distance from each other, and then you'll split those up and create another pair. So I'll probably, on this one at least, I probably am going to go and bring these together into another pairing, probably bring these back up and do just one more little round of clove hitch for me, and then you'll see me getting into doing one of the other kinds of knots. And on the bowl, that one needs just one more little connector going across, and then we're going to get to the top part. So we're going to keep working on these. After you get a pretty decent amount, we'll say maybe about 6 inches or so, which is, so you can see, probably about another 6 inches. That will be enough to create something for hanging. You don't want it to be too close. And then at the very end, I'll show you how to finish these off so that you can actually use them and start putting stuff in them. All right, so back to fast motion, and I'll see you on the other side of that for how to finish these up. All right, this is it. We've got our strings all set up. We've got them all cool and tied together. So the last thing to do is to get all your strings together, group them all up, get kind of close to where you finished off your knots, and you're making another big knot. We're just going to wrap them all around so you have a loop, tuck them all into the middle, and then as you pull, try to keep your knot pretty close. You can see me pushing it down pretty close to where your knots ended. That's enough. And then you can leave what's left. You can trim off what's left, but now you have a nice little spot to hold it from. And you can go back now at this point and take off all the little pieces of tape, because by now it should be holding your cup in place. I'll get that off just so you can see what it all looks like. Now I know I didn't finish the bowl one in the video, but I realized how long this was getting and thought it might be better just to finish this one. But I will finish working on the bowl in class with you guys, so you'll still see it finished. Oh, this tape. Now you can hang this from just about anything. You can put stuff in it. Hang it from above your desk, so you can put your pencils in it. You could put little LED lights inside of it and make it into a lantern, which could be very cool, hung up in your room, especially if you use like some bigger cups. The only thing to be careful of, no flames, obviously. Don't put anything fire in there, please. Oh my goodness, your parents would be really upset with me. Now, it is possible that you could probably get your cup or your bowl or whichever you used out of here by pulling the string off and then sliding it down, and then you can always put it back in. Oop, oop, oop. Tighten it back up. Everybody back. There you go. There's our cool little. See it on my screen here. Ta-da! Very cool. Whatever you want in it. What can I put in it? I'm going to put a pencil in it. That's all I got in my pocket. There we go. Hang it off the edge of your desk. Hang it off the edge of your bed. If you got bunk beds with like a brother or sister hanging from the bunk bed, you can hang it up underneath. Beautiful. So when you get able to take your picture, make sure that you can clearly see your different knots. So whatever you might have used up at the top, make sure those are very visible. Make sure the bottom is very visible so you can see every little bit of it. Send me a beautiful picture. I'm excited to see all your different combinations and what you came up with. And that'll be it for this one. And I'll see you guys in class.